Hello, everybody. This is first in a short series of what I'll just call ramblings, and they had to do with the economy and a couple of words about the damn election. Um, One of the immediate things I think of in this election is that Trump keeps saying how he's going to bring manufacturing back to this country, but yet he has failed to mention one thing about the five companies that he owns overseas that manufacture everything from ties to furniture, and why the hell no one has pinned him down on this. The second thing is he says, of course, Hillary should be in jail, but why hasn't he been prosecuted for not merely setting up an illegal foundation at which he none of his money since 2007 has gone into it, and that he has drawn checks to pay for private debt from it. So those are criminal offenses and they are felonies, but we'll let that rest. But what I want to talk to about is an interesting thing I saw on the internet yesterday, and I brought this up. I don't know, oh, a year ago maybe, who knows? But because of the birth rate of African nations, Nigeria has the greatest. Its birth rate is it increases in population by 3.9% per year, which is unparalleled. Um, so what the problem is I had talked before about we're worried about a couple of million people immigrating from Syria, and the most of the worry is because it would be fairly easy, being they only have the paperwork that they carry themselves, it'd be fairly easy to counterfeit that and to sneak in a bunch of terrorists. Now, there's terrorists in every country in Europe, and probably a lot of them got in through the Syrian connection, but that's a couple of million people. And as I mentioned before, the estimates are that by the year 2100, that one out of every two people in the world will be African. Now, the interesting thing isn't that I brought this up a year ago or so, but the fact that the immigration from Africa won't be in the millions or the tens of millions, it'll be in the hundreds of millions. And the reason I'm reiterating this is the fact that the head of the government in Nigeria himself said that, warned that due to it was born in Europe, due to the nature of the rapid birth rate in Nigeria and in Africa as a whole, that the Europeans better make way and make jobs for for tens and tens of millions, and by the turn of the century, hundreds of millions of Africans. Now, the problem with that is that they come with absolutely no skills at all. And that brings us to the discussion of the first of these rants, and that is that we're entering a period. Now, to me, the golden age of the United States was post World War II. Everybody had a job. The growth rate was terrific. Everybody's income increased. Ownership of homes increased dramatically, and we helped control the rebirth of Europe through the Marshall Plan, and that our own manufacturing benefited too because we became exporter uh, of manufactured goods. Now, it was obvious that there are nations in which it seems people are much smarter than other places, and they each have their own clever way. Now, one of those, of course, is Germany. Now, Germany manufactures the best glass with Zeiss Icon and Leica and these other things. I'm not sure about Leica, but Zeiss Icon and their tooling is superior, and the same with Japan. But the problem we face now is that these nations are growing older. Their reproductive rates are so low that they don't even replace the people that are in them. And the people that are there, as they grow older, of course, we all know this story, they require more and more services, and mainly health services, uh, that are very, very expensive. Now, the problem isn't that that we're not going to be manufacturing stuff. It's what is going to be doing the manufacturing. Now, this year you'll see, this is just a quick sideline, you'll see that the big thing that kids are all going to want, the big Christmas deal, will be virtual reality. And virtual reality is right now is in the stages of a toy, but it will eventually replace vacations and everything else, that people will be able to stay home and visit every aspect of the Grand Canyon, or they'll be able to go side by side with somebody up Mount Everest. And virtual reality, they'll be able to have their girlfriend at home and just lube her up, and so forth and so on. So this is a technology that's and it's just past its infancy, and will grow very rapidly. Now, accounting with that, you have nanotechnology, and the use of carbon fiber, and if they ever get it straightened out, the use of graphene in chips and circuits and stuff, that these are not job-friendly businesses. They are all done with mechanics, mainly robots, and that on some levels now, that manufacturing altogether in some items is being replaced by 3D printers. Now, a 3D printer, what they call additive manufacturing, in the old days, you'd take a block of steel and you'd drill it out and you'd make yourself an engine block. Well, eventually we're going to be able to manufacture engine blocks with every hole, everything necessary in them, without losing anything. You add the material as necessary till you have your engine block, as opposed to having to drill it out and so forth. But we've been over that before, 3D printing. So you add robotics, 3D printing, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality, and we will see a massive, massive exit of jobs from this country and every other one. That they've estimated, some countries in Africa, that 89% of their jobs could be replaced by technology, by robots, by machines. So what happens to those people? They have to get out of Africa, but they'll be leaving Africa with absolutely no skills. A lot of these Syrians that ran their own businesses and so forth are not the type of businesses that will thrive in Europe, and a lot of these people are going to be out of work for a long time. Well, take another example, goes back further. When the Cuban Revolution took place, Castro allowed tens of thousands and several hundred thousand of the intelligentsia of Cuba to leave. So he lost his doctors, his dentists, his engineers, his architects. These are the people that he needed. He didn't have the common sense to realize that, as we've been over many times, the House of Krupp, and many times we've been over how not allowing anybody that was a member of the Ba'ath Party to have anything to do with the government of Iraq. So what's going to happen is we are going to have massive unemployment. Now, no one can talk about this. You can't run for the Senate and saying, well, let's realize we're not going to have as many jobs in the state as we did. You can't run for the White House and say that let's just sit down and realize that the boom in jobs is over. You would never get elected. And for the most part, you can't tell the truth running anyway. And between Hillary and Trump, the amount of lies adding up is just overwhelming. So, but these problems have to be faced. And what I would like to do in these conversations is to take a look at each one. Artificial intelligence, we have to consider the ethical aspects of it and how even though humans write the software, can there be a slip up in the software which allows these machines to govern themselves. Now we have machines, it's very similar to Big Blue. I forget what they call the new one, IBM, that's quite capable of doing trillions of mathematical problems in seconds. We had another problem that I'll just mention quickly is great mathematicians. Mathematicians do the most creative work in their early 20s to mid 20s, and what we're finding is these brilliant people that are coming out of MIT and Stanford, you know, and other engineering schools, that they are not going into experimental research. They're going to where the money is, and that's writing the algorithms for programs for trading on Wall Street. And that is putting a big kink in our creativity, and we'll discuss that also. But what I'd like to do is develop a rapport with some of you, and I wish you'd leave questions that you would like to be discussed in the comments section. And we'll forget about the Trump deal, because I know some of you, no matter what Trump did, are going to follow him, and who knows why. And I'm not going to bother debating that issue. But think about artificial intelligence, 3D printing, even drones, robots, say, and what the hell was the other one? Virtual reality. And you watch this Christmas, all the kids are going to want virtual reality machines. The Chinese or the Japanese already have a virtual reality woman that you put your set on, and you attach her to your body and go to town. So we're going to see, one of the things we're going to see is the end of shopping as we know it. And all that is going to be mechanized. So there's tens of millions of people that run mom and pop stores. There are tens of millions of people that work in malls. The malls you're going to find are going to be part of history, so you better get down there and enjoy them this year, because a lot of the big stores and chains and malls will be gone by within 2 or 3 Christmases. So please leave a comment.